KTNA, experts in apprenticeships, traineeships and work-based training.
Hello and welcome to Chris&Co, the show looking at what affects business in Kent, with me, Chris Price. Joining me this week is Mark Coxon, a director at Gravesend-based Caxtons Chartered Surveyors. Later we'll be talking about the buying and selling of space for offices and shops ahead of the launch of the Kent Property Market Report. It's expected to paint a fairly rosy picture of how high streets in the county are responding to tough challenges. But is that just to generate interest in the market? We'll be asking our guests later on that one. First, the Chancellor Philip Hammond announced an end to austerity as he delivered his budget speech, with spending plans announced across health, the road network and schools. There were many big policy decisions for businesses too, including measures to get digital behemoths to pay their fair share of taxes on revenues generated in this country. Significantly for Kent, firms in Kent, the Chancellor revealed business rate bills for small firms, those with a rateable value of £51,000 or less, will be cut by a third over 2 years. He claims it will save up to £8,000 a year for up to 90% of all independent shops, pubs, restaurants and cafes. So, Mark, how significant is it, this reduction in business rates, how significant is that for companies in Kent?
It's absolutely great news for the High Street. The High Street has actually done phenomenally well in the last 12 months. Throughout virtually every town in Kent has improved. Rents have been increasing slightly. The rate situation will actually assist them completely.
Yeah. So Kent is in an unusual position, and you're saying that high streets are doing quite well. Obviously, there's all this discussion actually of big companies, your New Looks, your Debenhams, having these problems on the high streets. But you're saying that actually, firms in Kent, that's not the situation. So business rates, cutting business rates would be a part of helping that.
Yeah, business rates just forms one part of it. So you've got business rates, service charge, and rent. And obviously, landlords are still charging, due to rent reviews, a full figure on rental. So there's always different things to compensate. But the Chancellor's done a great thing, and I think it's going to boost not only the Kent but obviously the South East. Okay.
Is this a silver bullet for high streets? Cutting business rates, is that something that's just going to have a wondrous effect, or are there many more things that are needed to revolve?
There's lots of macro points which might come into play, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen next year. But I think it's just the catalyst, really. The economy generally for Kent is looking very good in all sectors, not only retail. I'm talking about retail, but obviously it affects the industrial and the office market as well. So all very good news for us. And
I mean, business rates cheaper. What does that mean for your one-man bands who work at home? I mean, do you think we'll see more people who sort of work in offices at home actually thinking, do you know what, I will take an office somewhere?
Well, the good thing about Kent, there's a lot of startups. A lot of the startups do fall, but then again, I think fortune favours the brave, and these companies who are working from home will take a small office or warehouse, and with a rent deposit, etc., they'll be up and flying. And obviously, they only need 1 or 2 years trading, and then they're an established company. And the next time they take a bigger building, they won't have to pay a rent deposit or whatever they have to put in.
Sure. Okay. So let's take a look now at some of the key announcements from the budget. There'll be an extra £1 billion to help welfare claimants transfer over to universal credit. On Brexit, an extra £500 million will be put aside for preparations for leaving the EU, and a special 50p coin has been commissioned to mark the departure. A minimum extra £2 billion a year will go towards mental health services, and new mental health crisis centres will support every A&E department in the country. There's the business rate announcement mentioned earlier, and £650 million to help rejuvenate high streets. The cap on council borrowing for house building will be lifted immediately. That's another big point. There's also an extra £650 million to help reform care for the elderly and an £84 million investment to expand children's social care programmes. And let's not forget the £450 million set aside to tackle potholes on the country's roads. Mark, did this budget have one eye on keeping the government in power rather than fixing major business issues? I mean, a lot of really popular policies that came out there.
I think there are business issues, and I think the government is very focused on the housing market. And I think that's very important, obviously, to get to their targets for this year. Kent, by the way, has done very well this year with house building and house sales, which is fantastic. So they're probably doing as much as they can. It's a very difficult situation with Brexit next year, so I think it was a very difficult budget to actually appease everybody.
You talked about housing. I mean, there's that cap lifted on councils, investing in building more homes. Is that so much of the talk is about the need to build more homes? Do you anticipate that actually allowing councils to borrow more money to build more homes will actually help alleviate that problem? It
will do. I mean, there's still a lot of money swashing around. I think local authorities are getting planning consents through probably quicker than they have been in the past. A lot of the national house builders are building out quicker. There's obviously different areas of house building now. The social housing scenario is coming in, and it's all looking rosy. Would
there have been more in it for business in this budget if we knew what the outcome of the Brexit negotiations were going to be? Do you think that perhaps there was some element from the Chancellor of waiting and see what the outcome will be of that?
Before they're making a decision?
Before coming out and making big sweeping changes that are going to stimulate businesses, high streets, things like that. I mean, there was this element, this cut in business rates. But do you think that perhaps there might have been more had there not been this uncertainty around Brexit? I think the government had to do something, obviously, to keep them in power, I suppose. But maybe they could have done more in the commercial property sector, for example. I mean, rates is a starting point, but there's various other things that they could have done. But it's a difficult economy at the moment, isn't it? Absolutely. One of the items not mentioned there was the annual investment allowance, which is going to allow entrepreneurs which is rising from £200,000 to £1 million for 2 years, allowing businesses to make investments. That's been lobbied for a lot by business groups. I mean, do you think that there's a real need to allow businesses to invest at the moment? Big callings to give them support to invest.
I think so, and I think this is just give them a little bit more stimulus, especially when there's a lot of overseas companies looking to also invest in Kent. But the UK companies, those both established in Kent and outside moving, it'll definitely be an incentive for them.
Brilliant. Mark, thanks very much for your thoughts on that. Now, with news of a new governor at Gallagher Group, new investors in theme park plans, and the surprise return of a high street name, here's Louisa Britton with this week's Business Roundup.
Civil engineering and building giant the Gallagher Group has appointed its new chief executive. Lance Taylor, former regional chairman of house builders Persimmon, will take over as CEO on November the 1st. He replaces Nick Yardle, who confirmed in August he was stepping down after 13 years with the Maidstone-based firm. Long-running plans for a Kent-based entertainment resort has been given a £25 million boost. New investor Keltbray has promised the cash for the park, which is set to cost £5 billion. The resort's planned to be built on the Swanscombe Peninsula between Gravesend and Dartford. It was originally going to be inspired by Paramount Pictures films, but will now be called the London Resort. An historic department store which closed last month has been rescued after it was taken over in a deal signed this week. The Nason's name will soon be back trading in Canterbury following the takeover of the 90-year-old family firm by a furniture specialist. Anglia Home Furnishings has acquired the company and is currently refitting the former store in Maynard Road, Wincheap, which will be known as Nason's Furniture of Canterbury. One of the county's leading law firms has confirmed it's to merge with a London practice. Cripps, which has offices in Tunbridge Wells, Kings Hill and London, will merge with Pemberton Greenish. It will see the company renamed Cripps Pemberton Greenish. Pemberton Greenish has developed a reputation in central London primarily for its large property business and in private wealth.
Okay, so first of all, Mark, Gallagher Group, a new chief executive there. I mean, do you anticipate, you know the company well,
yes,
do you anticipate
yep.
a change in direction at all from that company?
I'm not sure what their plans are, but Gallagher, a very big property developer, have lots of different arms doing various things. So no doubt there's lots of opportunities out there for a Kent-based developer to buy land, etc. They're involved in an awful lot of schemes, so I think it's great news for them.
Eclipse Park being one of their prime ones, I mean, that has been one that has really grabbed attention and proven to be quite a success, actually.
It has. It's been phenomenal. I mean, not only have they
that's
built
in Maidstone, obviously.
That's right, Junction
7.
Junction
7, yeah.
Not only have they built out a retail offering, which they're doing with Marks and Spencer's, they've had a very established business park for quite a few years, which is let, relet, and it's been very successful.
And that's been successful despite, without damaging the town centre, they would argue. I mean, how difficult is it to have that right mix of, on the edge of town, retail and business parks and town centre businesses?
It is very difficult and very controversial, but I think that obviously this is the way that people shop. Basically, they do drive to work and they come off. I mean, we're based at Junction 7, and I could pop into Marks and Spencer's on my way home, for example. But actually, that location is very good because you can actually walk to the town centre from there. So it's probably got both the USPs.
Very, 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 very quickly, Nathan's back in Canterbury by the looks of it in a very small way. I mean, that's great for the area.
Fantastic. I mean, they're a good local company based in Canterbury for many years, so we wouldn't want to have lost them.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Mark. We'll be right back after this break. Thanks for watching. Stay right here. Welcome back to Chris&Co, the show looking at what affects business in Kent. Well, I'm joined for this part by James Beatton, a partner at law firm Cripps, based in Tunbridge Wells, and Mark Coxon, again, of Caxtons Chartered Surveyors. If you buy or sell or build or demolish housing or commercial sites in the county, the chances are you'll be heading to the launch of the Kent Property Market Report. The study, now in its 27th year, comes as high streets face tougher challenges than ever, with big names like Debenhams, New Look and Gourmet Burger Kitchen all announcing sweeping closure plans recently. Yet the Kent's report is expected to say Kent's high streets are bucking the national trend with falling vacancy rates. This is expected to be driven, it will say, by small and micro businesses rather than larger corporations. Mark, so the property report says that small businesses are the driver of this, of high streets doing quite well in Kent. Well, why is that?
They are. It's results of SMEs, smaller companies starting up, as I mentioned earlier, and there's gymnasiums, for example, who are taking high streets accommodation, and a lot of these companies have got better covenants than they would have done a few years ago. So there's probably less stock on the market due to PD, which is the planning development, where a lot of the office and retail have been converted into residential. There's less stock, so we've probably seen a little bit of that as well.
So you're saying that actually that the reason that maybe there is this fall in vacancy rates is not because shops are being replaced with shops, but actually because we're getting, you said, gymnasiums coming in. Are we talking about coffee shops as well? This kind of thing. Is it a change in the look of high streets? Yeah,
we're talking about coffee shops. We're talking about the different sort of sectors. People always need to shop, even though some of the chains may be sort of moving out. A lot of the smaller one-man bands are starting up, and landlords are probably being a little bit more flexible than they were, say, 18 months, 2 years ago.
Why? Who are the companies that are struggling at the moment? Then, I mean, you're saying that small businesses doing quite well, and and different companies coming into high streets. Who are the strugglers then at the minute?
I wouldn't like to say who are the strugglers, because obviously you see that in the news day in, day out.
But what type of firm?
It will just be an individual maybe who wakes up one morning and thinks I'm going to start a flower shop or something like that, and hasn't done their business plan properly. So it's probably companies who are unprepared to actually go in and make a go of it.
Okay. The changes in high streets are something that have been going on for a long time. Are we expecting to? Are these? There's still a long way to go in the way that high streets, that the commercial property market is going to change, or
you'll never see the death of the high street. Everybody likes to shop. Everybody likes to window shop, to go in and have a look around rather than going on the internet. So I think the town centre will change. There'll be more residential, I think, in the high street. What's been very popular recently is putting residential blocks above retail, where 10 years ago you may have not bought a flat above a retail property, but now they're very popular. I think banks are lending on them more frequently, so I think you'll have probably more of a community within the high street.
Brilliant, thanks for that. Now, a planning application has been submitted for plans to build more than 1,700 houses near Detling. The proposals for Binbury Park also include commercial space, a hotel, shopping centre, a primary school and a park and ride facility. The developer behind the scheme, Mark Quinn, claims the plans could save lives as part of improvements to the A249. Christina Curtis reports.
We're not saying we've got a perfect scheme, but we do think we've got a scheme that's going to probably save lives. So a grade separated junction that we're proposing, along with the highway improvements that we're proposing on the A249, crucially will take traffic down by 90%. It can deliver nationally significant safety highways betterment. Okay, so we're going to be able to stop accidents, we're going to be able to stop people getting hurt, and we're going to be able to stop crashes that cause economic disruption through queues.
The road improvements to the A249 are just some of the proposals in the long-awaited planning applications for the Binbury Garden Village near Detling. If the planning application is approved, the former Detling airfield site could be completely transformed, making it unrecognisable. In particular, this field behind me, which is the largest site of development in the proposed plans. The plans are for more than 1,700 houses, commercial space, a primary school and an autistic school, a hotel, shopping centre and a park and ride facility to be built around the existing Detling aerodrome. The proposal also includes new access to the Kent Showground and a country park.
We think this scheme's really exciting because essentially it provides much needed housing in Maidstone in a place that has the infrastructure to take it. It's a brilliant place to be located. It's in the centre of Kent, and that's why we think that this is a really, really exceptional scheme that does clear the barriers that are set for the AONB.
But seeing as the site is in an area of outstanding natural beauty, there has been some opposition against it.
We are pretty concerned at the possibility of this development going ahead. Obviously, we need houses, we need places that people can afford to live in, but we need the kind of houses that are in the right place, and this is simply not the right place for a new standalone development. The designation of an area of outstanding natural beauty doesn't mean you can't build anything, but you have to be able to demonstrate that it's in the national interest. You have to be able to demonstrate that there are absolutely no other alternatives, and you have to be able to demonstrate that you're doing everything in your power to limit the harm to the landscape. Well, this application, I'm afraid, it fails spectacularly on all of those counts.
The application will be discussed by the Thurnham Parish Council at its next meeting on the 19th of November. A final decision must be made by January next year, either to keep the area as it is or to change it forever. This is Christina Curtis for KMTV.
Okay, so we'll talk about this Garden Town scheme in a moment. But first of all, James, I mean, you're here, you're from Cripps. We've just seen earlier in the programme this big merger that you guys have just completed with Pemberton Greenish. I mean, why has that come about?
London has been a key part of our strategy for a number of years now. 37% of our clients are based in London. And talking to them and listening to what our key relationships are saying to us is they wanted us to have a more tangible and a stronger presence in London so that we could deliver what they want from us in a better way. It doesn't change anything to do with what we already have. So we are a Kent-based business. We employ 360 people who are based in or around the county of Kent. And ultimately, the deal is about making what we have in the region stronger by focusing more on what we have in London and what we can get out of London.
I mean, a lot of people might look at a big merger for your firm like this and say, well, this is you guys looking at bigger clients, bigger pictures, and perhaps that there's certain types of clients you might be leaving behind. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
Not at all. We have always been a broad church, and that's exactly the way we like it. We act for very small businesses, including startups, right the way through to large national and international businesses. That's a great mix to have.
So what is the market like for law firms at the moment? I mean, as Brexit, for example, and when all the changes that's come about, has that been a good thing for the law industry?
We haven't suffered hugely as a result of the decision to leave. What we are seeing at the moment is a level of uncertainty in the build-up to the end of March. And that isn't terribly helpful when you're acting for businesses who are looking to make investment decisions. So the market is a little bit uncertain at the moment, but generally we're trading very well. Okay,
well, I'm glad. It's great to hear about a company in Kent looking to expand and to broaden its horizons. Another area that's expanding is this site in Detling. So we've got this seamless link there, but we've got this Garden Town scheme that was just mentioned before coming forward for Detling. Garden Town is the term that's been used for this 1,700 homes or so. It's a sort of new term that's come along. I mean, is it being used as does it mean something to people, or is it kind of a marketing ploy to make a scheme seem a bit more attractive? I don't know.
I don't think it's a marketing ploy, but I think it probably is a buzzword within the industry. But it is creating a large environment for homeowners, which is fantastic, with lots of other sectors brought in.
And this garden. The garden towns, are they basically the thing at the moment? Are we just sort of going to see this term come and go, or housing developments that are there's great pressure to build houses, as we saw in the budget, to build more and more. Are we going to see this kind of scheme, these big schemes, thousands of homes at a time, keep coming along?
I don't think there's an option. Basically, you know, the county, the South East, the country needs more housing. So these large expanses will be built on, and you know, it's down to these developers which are buying and working with the planners to deliver them, which they are.
Very quickly, James.
I mean, I think that's absolutely right. I think it's a good thing. And if you look at, I mean, I'm trying to think of the best example I know in Kent, if you want to call it that term, although people don't, is Kings Hill. And having communities where you can live, work, play, I think is a great idea. And in many ways, it allows a lot more flexibility in terms of how the development you're doing works.
Okay, guys, thanks very much. Now, before we go, we just have time to reveal our number of the week. And this week's number is 4,308. That's how many new company insolvencies there were across England and Wales in the third quarter of the year, according to the Insolvency Service. It's a rise of nearly a fifth on the same time a year ago. It's being blamed in part on the highest level of underlying creditors' voluntary liquidations for the first 3 months. Since the first 3 months of 2012, they accounted for almost 72% of business insolvencies. Well, Mark and James, it's been wonderful having you on the programme. Thanks very much for coming in. That is all we've got time for today. That's it for the latest edition of Chris&Co, our show looking at the issues affecting business in Kent. Keep up to date at kentbusiness.co.uk. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
KTNA, experts in apprenticeships, traineeships and work-based training.